Katherine? Why is she here? Don't let her overshadow Amy. I was standing just a few steps away, hearing every word as if someone were deliberately slicing my heart with a dull blade. My mother didn't know I was there, and even if she did, I don't think she would have said anything different. It was Amy's graduation day, the golden girl of the family, the perfect child my parents proudly mentioned to relatives, colleagues, even the milkman down the street. The whole family was gathered, dressed to the nines, cameras ready as if they were about to be filmed for a reality show. I hadn't planned to come, honestly, but a part of me was still soft. A part still hoped that maybe this time would be different. This time, they'd smile when they saw me walk up, not ask, "Why are you here?" but "Are you doing okay?" But no. What I got was awkwardness, a sharp remark, and a look of concern as if I were the one stealing the spotlight from the family's precious gem. I didn't respond. I gave a faint smile, nodded to everyone, and quietly moved to the side where no one noticed. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry. Because in that moment, I understood. Their stage wasn't for me. But what they didn't know was, my stage, just a few hours later, would make the world take notice. And in that moment, in a different hall, filled with investors, tech experts, and journalists, when the MC took the mic and announced, "Please welcome to the stage, the founder and CEO of Medixtech, Katherine L." I stepped out to resounding applause. And for the first time in my life, my name wasn't overlooked. It was recognized in the right place at the right time. I was used to being the last name mentioned, if it was mentioned at all. As a child, I quickly learned to shrink myself at family gatherings, where the spotlight in our house always shone on Amy. Every time we gathered, whether for Thanksgiving, birthdays, or a simple Sunday dinner, every conversation at the table revolved around her. Her A-plus grades, her award-winning essays, her lead role in the school play, or the teacher's comment that Amy has leadership qualities. Even a short English class essay would be printed out, laminated, and stuck on the fridge as if it were the family's Olympic medal. And me? I was there, but like an extra chair at the party, needed, but not really remembered. Occasionally, when someone casually asked about me, my mother would smile faintly, sip her tea, and say, as if reassuring herself, "Catherine's a bit reserved. She's figuring herself out. Not every kid can be as outgoing as Amy." At first, I tried to understand. I thought it was just their way of brushing off relatives. I told myself, it's fine. My turn hasn't come yet. But as I grew older, I realized this wasn't accidental. It was an unspoken order. Amy was the pride, the symbol the family presented to the world. And I was the other one, the background to make Amy stand out more. Someone who shouldn't be too different, too noticeable, or strayed too far from expectations. I didn't confront them. I didn't cry or demand fair treatment. But some scars don't need blood to hurt. Like the day I brought home a letter announcing my full scholarship to a prestigious university in another state. I showed it to them with the same excitement Amy had when she brought home a third-grade certificate. My mother glanced at it and asked one question. "What are you studying? Marketing? That's competitive. You might not find a job." No congratulations. No hug. No photo on the fridge. Meanwhile, a few weeks later, when Amy announced she'd studied journalism, the family threw a small party. My father called it choosing a creative, socially minded path. My mother said, "This is the field for our times." That's when I knew, if I stayed, I'd always be a shadow. I left home at 20. No complaints, no dramatic script. Just a suitcase, a few books, and an old laptop. I rented a small room near a train station where the trains passing by each night reminded me, anyone can leave if they dare. I started from zero, working as a research assistant for a fledgling healthcare tech startup. The job was unstable, the pay low, but I learned. I learned more than any classroom ever taught me. About medical data, analytics algorithms, financial management, teamwork. No one at home asked where I was. Not a call, not a text. And strangely, I wasn't sad. Because for the first time, I felt unboxed. I understood. If I wanted to be seen, I had to build my own stage. No need for applause, no need for familiar faces. just a place where I wasn't dimmed to let someone else shine. I studied programming, hospital management systems, and healthcare data analysis. I studied every night, even after 8-hour workdays. I worked weekends at a bookstore, saving every penny. No vacations, no social media, no boasting. When I founded my first company, MedixTech, I used my middle initial and dropped my last name. Not because I rejected my roots, but because I wanted to know if I, without connections, without a family name, could stand tall in the investment world. And I did. After 3 years, MedixTech secured Series B funding from a venture capital firm. We developed a diagnostic system to support frontline doctors, reducing initial treatment errors by 42% in rural areas. The media started mentioning Katherine L., but no one in my family read those articles because they didn't know it was me. And I didn't tell them because I didn't need them to know to keep going. I just needed to believe in myself. That day came quietly, a clear sky, soft sunlight, me in a simple cream blazer, hair tied low, no heavy makeup. No one in the hall turned to look when I walked in, and I felt at ease. I was used to not drawing attention, but that wasn't an ordinary day. Amy, my sister, was preparing to receive her college degree in the hall next door, just a few hundred meters away. The whole family was there to take photos, give flowers, and probably once again proclaim the pride of the lineage. And me, I was backstage at the region's biggest annual healthcare tech investment conference. Not as an honored guest, not as an investor, but as the keynote speaker, the founder, the one who took MedixTech from zero to a valuation of over $200 million in 4 years. No one in my family knew, and I didn't plan to tell them. I was called to the stage at 10:30 a.m. The hall was nearly full, soft lights shining on the podium. When I stepped out, the light was a bit bright, but I didn't blink. I looked straight at the audience. People who were once icons I admired, dreams I didn't dare voice. And today, I was here as an equal, not asking permission, not proving myself. My presentation on technology for early cardiovascular diagnosis in young women received strong feedback. I saw attentive eyes, nods from people I'd only dared to follow on LinkedIn. But what I didn't expect was, one of the audience members was my old university professor who taught my biomedical data analysis class. As the Q&A began, he stood up, barely hiding his stunned smile, and said loudly into the mic, "Well done, CO. I had no idea you were behind MedixTech. Absolutely incredible." The whole hall turned to me, a few people whispered. Those sitting near him looked at him, then back at me, as if they'd just witnessed a plot twist in a movie. An unassuming figure turned out to be the leader of the event's standout company. I smiled, gave a slight nod. "Thank you, Professor. I didn't expect to be presenting to you one day either." A round of applause followed. Not thunderous, but loud enough for me to know I was in the right place. The funny thing is, at that moment, my family was in the outer lobby where the conference's press coverage was being broadcast on a large screen. I hadn't invited them, but by some strange twist, they were having lunch in the restaurant across from the screen. My mother saw me on it. I know, because after the presentation, I got the first text from her in nearly a year. "Are you working for that company?" I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because, at that moment, I had nothing left to prove, nothing left to explain. Because when you've proven yourself to the world, your silence is the clearest answer to those who never believed you could do anything. I didn't come to embarrass anyone. I didn't come for revenge. There was no grand plan to make anyone grovel for forgiveness. The truth is, I didn't need that. I was once a child who just wanted a nod from my mother when I showed her a drawing. A 16-year-old who won a small essay contest, only to see the certificate tucked between utility bills. A freshman who emailed about being chosen as a teaching assistant and got a single-line reply, "Try not to lose your scholarship." I used to think, if I succeeded one day, I'd come back and make them regret. Make them see they were wrong to underestimate me. But time taught me something. Not everyone knows how to admit mistakes. And a grown person doesn't wait for apologies to live true to themselves. That afternoon, after the speech, I saw my family sitting in the caf area outside the conference. They weren't loud or chatty like earlier. Everyone quietly looked at the screen replaying the presentation, where I was talking about technology, saving lives, the future of healthcare. My mother stared at me, as if trying to piece together the fragments she'd overlooked for years. Amy looked down, maybe embarrassed, maybe surprised. My father touched my shoulder lightly as I approached, started to say something, but stopped. I just smiled, gently, not mocking, not cold. I didn't say a word about the past. I didn't ask why, for years. They never asked what I was doing, how I was living. I only said, "Thanks for coming," then walked away, as naturally as if the conversation were ordinary. I went straight into a close meeting with investors and press. Walked on flat shoes, but steady. My mind no longer swirled with questions like, will they stop thinking I'm useless? But held just one thought. I've come so far from those old judgments. I don't need to go back to be validated. I didn't say anything to strike back. No need to boast or flaunt achievements. Because I understood. Success doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be timely and clear. And that's what I carried, not for anyone to see, but for me to know. I've grown. And I'm no longer in the dark. After that conference, something strange started happening. My family began texting. First, my father. A short message. "I heard you were honored yesterday. Congratulations." I read it over and over, not because I was overwhelmed, but because it felt like a line from an old book, foreign, but not entirely unfamiliar. Then my mother. Her message was longer, a bit roundabout. "I'm sorry if we ever made you feel unrecognized. You've done something incredible I didn't know, and I should have." I didn't reply right away. I left it there, on the screen, like a mirror to the past. Amy was the last to text. She wrote, "You might never have been called the star, but yesterday you shone brighter than anyone I've ever known. I'm sorry for never saying it." I read each line, felt everything slow down. But strangely, I didn't cry. I didn't burst with relief at finally being recognized. I didn't feel smug for turning the tables. I just felt calm. Because this recognition, if it was there, was no longer what I needed to survive. It was like sunlight after a long rain. You appreciate it, but you've learned to walk through the storm without getting wet. I replied with just one line to all three, when asked if I'd come home for dinner that weekend. The family star can still shine, but I am no longer in the shadows. I didn't write more. Now, I live in a small apartment by the river, each morning brewing tea, opening the window, watching the sun rise slowly over the horizon. I still travel, speaking and meeting partners. But inside, a part of me has settled. No more striving to be worthy. No more craving to prove anything to anyone. I work because I believe in what I've built. I live because I know I deserve to be on stage, even if no one claps. And if anyone was ever like me, pushed out of the family photo, unnamed at the party, seen as the less remarkable version, remember, you don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to keep walking, and one day, your silence will echo louder than any voice. I'm Katherine, and I'm no longer a faint shadow. I'm the light of my own making. I used to think, if I tried hard enough, one day, someone in my family would look at me with the pride they always gave Amy. I spent half my life waiting for that look. But I was wrong, not because I wasn't worthy, but because true recognition doesn't come from outside, it starts within. I wasted too many years to learn a simple truth. Never let someone else's definition decide your worth. If you're reading this and have ever felt not good enough, unseen, or untrusted, remember, it's not because you lack value, it's because you haven't stood in the right place to shine. Have you ever been underestimated by your own family? Do you think Katherine should forgive or keep her distance? Comment if you've been called the one with no future, but kept pushing quietly. Like if you believe silence has power too. And don't forget to subscribe to follow more stories of rising from being overlooked.